Welcome to State of the State. I'm John Calavalli, hosting this interview with John Matson, Democrat, candidate for U.S. House District 2. Welcome back to State of the State, John.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, John.
It's always nice to have you here, John. And John, for clarification purposes, I want our viewers to know that this half hour was originally set up and intended to be a debate between you and Congressman Jim Langevin. Unfortunately, Congressman Langevin's schedule did not allow him to be able to make it for this production, and we couldn't find another time for the two of you to get together. So for all intents and purposes, John, this is the John Matson Show.
Well, I would much rather be sitting here with Congressman Langevin having a debate so the people could see the difference between the two of us and where we're coming from and the things that I would like to change that Mr. Langevin doesn't seem to have a handle on, John. So, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk to the people and let them know about my views and how I feel and why I run for this office in Rhode Island, 2nd District.
Well put, John. And it is our policy, as you know, that if another candidate is not able to make it, we do not deprive a challenger or challengers not to have an opportunity to appear on this program. So, John, let's talk about a few things. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself personally before we get into the nuts and bolts of question and answer?
Well, I think that most people know an awful lot about me because I've been around for 15 years, and I think everybody knows I was a carpenter. Basically, I use that mantra because it shows that I came from the blue-collar world, and where the majority of the voters and citizens of Rhode Island were middle class. And we've been decimated, and I'm here representing them, and I'm trying to do what they say can't be done, which is unseat an incumbent with a small campaign that I run, that I have been running, where I believe that the average citizen should be able to participate in our form of government without having to raise $1 million. The average mom and dad or your son or your daughter cannot raise that kind of money. It's just impossible. So we've been choked off. Our views have been choked off from being presented in Washington. The lobbyists, I guess there's 6,000 lobbyists who patrol those hallways, and our views never get to the ears of our congressmen, nor do our votes come up in a fashion that we would believe they do. So I stand up and I run, and because I think that the unaffiliated and independent voters of Rhode Island, along with the Democratic moderates of the Democratic Party who feel they've been left out of their own party, need to have a choice. And I stand here today as a moderate Democrat with the belief that those 176,000 independent voters and the disenchanted Democrats who would like to see a change and have their views carried, I will carry that voice to Washington for them.
Well, I can say, John, thank you for giving the voters of this state a choice. Choice is very, very important when it comes to elections, and the reality has been that we have been short on choices for a very long time. So thank you for giving the voters that will participate in the party primary Democrat. Right. That's September 11th.
Yeah, well, the big thing about the primary is a lot of independent, unaffiliated voters do not know that they can go vote in the Democratic primary. It's critical that they show up because it's the one place that their vote counts the most. When an unaffiliated or independent candidate goes in and votes in the Democratic primary, all they have to do is disaffiliate after they voted, so they're immediately back to their previous standard of what they wanted to be was independent, and it's the independent voters' chance to show up and control who the next congressman is going to be. And I think that my track record of getting 14,700 votes as an independent 2 years ago shows there are a number of people out there who are not satisfied with what they've been getting. And we'll talk about that as we go along.
Yes, indeed, John. We're producing this show the day after candidate Anthony Gemmer held a press conference and made some assertions about voter fraud. Is that something, John, that you would like to comment on?
Well, like every other politician who's participating, we would like to think that the process is fair and honest. If the allegations Mr. Gemmer has brought up are proven to be true, it's a real bad mark on the state of Rhode Island in another area if that is what is going to be proven out. It's very doubtful to me, understanding the process as law enforcement works in the courts, that this issue will be resolved before this election. So with all the allegations that were presented and the statements, and it's too bad that this couldn't have been done a year ago, so this could have been changed and fixed. And if anybody knew about it a year ago, what bothers me the most is why it wasn't brought up when they heard about it, why it wasn't put on the table, why it wasn't investigated. This isn't something that just arose out of air in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So that troubles me. I've taken matters to the police departments in Rhode Island in the past, and I know it takes an awful long time to resolve them, but this is very critical to the belief of the citizens that when they go in and vote that it's really going to matter. And it does matter. It matters an awful lot to me. So
it does matter, and anything that even suggests that the votes that we cast are not accurately represented in the counts that are made is very troubling, John. Yeah. Very, very troubling. But I agree with you that whether there's truth to these allegations or not, we will not know the outcome long after probably the general election. Yeah. And so where are we?
Yeah, well, so I think it was a headliner for Mr. Gemmer, and if in fact he's proven to be true on these allegations, and people have to pay the price for their actions, that'll be a wonderful thing. Whether he wins or loses the election isn't the issue. Is that the credibility is given back to the people that their elections are in fact safe, and there are people who care, and the system isn't failing us. Okay.
Yes, indeed. John, as you know, Congressman Langevin is seeking his 7th term as U.S. Congressman, which means that he has served a dozen years already. And you are working very hard to make sure that he doesn't see a 7th term.
That's correct.
Why is that?
Well, since I began my quest to be involved in our democracy, I've had an inner belief that regular people need to stand up. And that's what I've done. As I've learned from going through the process year in and year out, and having been out on the campaign trail with governors and presidents I've met, and the Speaker of the Houses, and the education you get from participating in politics awakens you to something you had no imagination as to what really it takes to be a candidate for Congress. But Mr. Langevin his whole life has been involved in politics. I was on my local town council for 2 years, and I was very grateful to have been elected down in Hopkinton. And I, to this day, believe I made a difference. I believe I raised issues that mattered. I believe I fought for the things that would make my town prosper and do well. But here with our current sitting congressman, the only thing that I feel that Jim has done is he talks about the economy, he talks about the jobs, he talks about electric boat and submarines, which these are all fixed units. The thing that bothers me is the average mom and dad on Main Street or down the street who's struggling just to pay his mortgage, pay his insurance, doesn't know if he's going to have a job tomorrow. The 12 years that Jim's been a congressman, this is the first lost decade where the middle class has shrunk. and where the middle class's income is shrunk, where their net worth is receded by 20%.
Yes, indeed.
It's a lost decade. He's responsible, as every other congressman and senator, for the failure to rein in our banking industry, Wall Street, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac debacles, and many of these things. There were congressmen and senators who stood up on the Senate floor and warned about what was coming, yet nobody did a thing about it. So to think that nobody's to blame for the downfall of our economy, yes, there are people to blame. You know, there's more than enough blame to go around. But how do we change it? How do we change it? How do we stop the same things from reoccurring? When we turn on the news and you hear the financial news that another bank just lost $6 billion, how can the average citizen begin to believe there's any change going on? We consolidated 30 banks into 5 giant banks, and we bailed them all out. But there's no bailout for Main Street. There's no change in the way the process truly works. We have, in effect, lost our government in more ways than I'd like to say.